Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. And this video is going to be a little bit different in more ways than one. Firstly, it is a reaction video to something that popped up on my Google feed a while ago now. It's just, I bookmarked it, I'm just now getting around to it. I basically clicked on it, bookmarked it right away, and I haven't looked at it since. I'm just now getting around to it, and that is this. This is the top best NES games of all time from GamesRadar. Vibrant and nostalgic, the best NES games will remind you of what made the Nintendo so good in the first place. Now the reason why I kind of find this interesting is that you see these top 10 lists all the time, and they're usually all about the same, and they're all actually quite a few years old by this point. This was actually pretty recent, coming out February 22nd of 2024, which is, well, about a week and a half ago now. Like I said, I'm just now getting around to it. The other thing that's different about this is not only am I recording it with my normal smartphone, I'm recording it with a new webcam that I picked up. This is one of those cheap on 1440p webcams that you can pick up at Walmart for about 25-30 bucks. I'm seeing how it's going to work and see how the quality compares to my smartphone here. I can kind of tell right now in the direct capture from on OBS, the lighting's not nearly as good and the quality's not as good. But anyway, we'll have to see how it turns out. So let's take a look at this list and go from there. I might be jumping from back and forth from angle to angle. That way, you know, I can try it out. So let's just take a look at the top 10 NES games according to GamesRadar. All right, so when it comes to the best NES, you know, you're talking about the presence of greatness, which is, yeah, very fair, because the NES is one of the best consoles of all time. Obviously, easily the NES could be top 10 console in a list, just because of what it did. All right, so let's see what they got. Number 10 is Duck Hunt. Really? Now I kind of find that fascinating. Okay, released 1984, Duck Hunt is pure Nintendo. It's a quintessential game for the underutilized NES Zapper. Fair enough. I think there's only like 4 or 5 games that actually use the Zapper, and this is the most iconic game you're going to use with it. In fact, I think this is actually a pack-in title for like 99% of the NES is sold. In fact, every garage sale NES you're going to come across is probably going to have Duck Hunt in the Zapper. It's maybe largely unplayable these days, but for many players, hunting ducks with Mr. Peepers. That's the name of the dog, is Mr. Peepers? I actually did not know that. All right, number 9. River City Ransom from 1989. I have not heard of this one. Struggled to pull itself out of the long cast shadow of beat-em-ups by Double Dragon, Ghosts and Goblins, and The Legend of Kage. Kage, however you want to pronounce it. Okay, so it's kind of interesting that they put a kind of an underdog game here as number 9. But if it's one of those things like, oh, well, if you like, you know, Legend of Kage and Double Dragon and this, you're gonna like this game, which is kind of weird to say because of the fact that you see those things on Steam all the time. Like if you like Fallout, you're gonna like this game, or if you like Skyrim, you're gonna like that game. And the problem with that is those games really usually don't have that much in common with a lot of those games. But okay, fair enough. River City Ransom was ahead of its time, one of the best NES games you can play today. So yeah, it might be a game worth picking up, especially since it's number 9. Number 7? Oh, we have a typo on the webpage. Awesome, but you know what? I'm not going to give too much credit. Anyway, number 8 is Mike Tyson's Punch-Out! All right, 1987. What is about underdog story that draws so many of us in? It's difficult to say, but the journey of the underweight title contender Little Mac certainly captured our attentions back in 1987. Absolutely fair enough to this one. Because when it comes to boxing games on the NES, usually they were just like generic boxing games like player A, player B, player 1, player 2, just generic stats. And it really wasn't much of a boxing game. But this was actually like a licensed game with someone's actual name on it, which is actually very interesting because like this kind of like, you know, somewhat predates the stuff like Madden and like the Big Hurt Baseball. Like it's a sports name on a cartridge. So you know what, absolutely fair enough. Plus, it was actually one of the few games where it wasn't just, you know, button mashing. Like, if you paid attention to your opponent, like maybe they winked a certain way and they were going to left jab, or maybe they did something with their neck and they were going to right, you know, cross. Something. So, okay, fair enough. That's actually pretty interesting. The true number 7, Contra at 7? Really? Side-scrolling shoot 'em up. All right. I mean, this is basically like, you know, this is okay, it's not surprising it's on the top 10 list, but it is surprising it's number 7. Like, this is actually one of the quintessential NES games. Again, if everybody has played this game, if you had the NES. And I've played this so many times. I don't have it, unfortunately, anymore. I did have it back in the day, though. But yeah, this was one of those, this is one of the most iconic games of all time. Plus, this basically helped spark the infamous Konami code, which they actually say right here. Grant you 30 lives if you can remember the correct button inputs. And by this point, we all know what it is. Number 6, Castlevania Dracula's Curse. Really? They put number 3 on this list? Alright, let's see why. Was a return to form, developer Konami abandoned the RPG elements that it tried to introduce in Simon's Quest. Okay, you know what? Absolutely fair enough. There's a lot of people that didn't like the RPG elements of Simon's Quest. Like, it kind of detracted away a little bit from the story and the speed of the game, and they kind of went back to the, to the core of what Castlevania was. So you know what? Yeah, it's kind of surprising that it's down so low, being number 6. But at the same time, considering you had Contra at 7, okay, fair enough. I'll give it this. And a truly iconic visual style with 16 challenging stages. You know, the thing is, I will admit I have not actually played all the way through the Castlevania games. It's a little side tangent with this. I've played a little bit of Castlevania 1 on that multi-cart cartridge that I have. I played a little bit of Simon's Quest. I think I maybe played like maybe 5-10 minutes of Dracula's Curse here. It's something I want to try and play. Maybe not beat it, because it's Castlevania. There's no way you're going to beat it through your first playthrough, which would be my thing. But yeah, the fact that it's a game I actually need to play, so yeah. All right, fair enough. What's next? Number 5. Mario 1 is at 5? Okay, it's in the top 5. Okay, fair enough, but wow, really? Super Mario Bros. Changed everything, not just for Nintendo, but for video games. Yeah, and widely considered to have the perfect opening level. Yeah, Mario is considered by a lot of people to be one of the perfect NES games. It's got just a real nice learning curve throughout the entire game. World 1-1 really helps introduce you to how Mario's supposed to play. It doesn't give you like direct instructions, but what it does do is it gives you time right away to hit the button to see what A does, what B does, what the D-pad does. You know, it gives you time, and that's actually really interesting. You know, iconic theme song, and you know, it's like it says right here. It's difficult to say whether the industry at large would have recovered from the video game crash of '83 without Super Mario, but I think it would have been really difficult. I mean, Mario kind of, it helped regain faith a little bit when it came with the NES. It wasn't one of the, you know, at the time wouldn't have been like thought to be the perfect game, but considering that nowadays we consider it that, how many 2D platformers are compared to Mario? How many different like songs and level design, all that stuff is compared to this 2D platformer that is Mario? You know, absolutely fair enough. I'm surprised it's at number 5 though. Now I'm curious as to what number 1 would be, because honestly, okay, I mean, to be cliche, like I said with some of these lists are cliche, I kind of would have expected that to be number 1. All right, number 4, Metroid. Yes, I absolutely love Metroid. Metroid is one of those games that I used to play the crap out of back in the day, and honestly, I'm gonna say it right now, I will consider Metroid a soft horror game, because, you know, you're by yourself in an alien world, the music's a little haunting, there's stuff around every corner. But not only that, from a game standpoint, it was a huge game for the NES. It was kind of different. It was non-linear. There was a story in the background that you really had to like read between the lines to get. It had password saves. I mean, a lot of the NES games didn't have password saves, especially some of the early ones. And this came out, when was it? 87? I think Zelda, Metroid, I think there was a couple others, just a few others that had saves. You know, you could easily get lost. There was no guidance of like where to go. I mean, you could easily get lost in Metroid. I got lost so many times playing this game. Such a unique game, and honestly, the fact that it's number 4 is, I'm happy to see that's in the top, definitely in the top 5 like that. I got a little worried when I didn't see it from 5 to 10. But you know what? Yeah, this is one of those iconic games that if you haven't played the original Metroid, this is where all of it started, if you're a fan of Metroid. Especially the later 3D ones like Prime 2 Echoes, Corruption, and other M. I guess some people are a fan of that. Okay, number 3. Mega Man 2, really? From '88. Always want to try Mega Man, but don't know where to start. Capcom skirted close to perfection with Mega Man 2, requiring precision as it does patience. Okay, I cannot fully agree with this because I haven't played Mega Man 2. I have all the 6 Rockmans on that bootleg cartridge of mine, and the same thing. It's Mega Man and Rockman, the same thing. They're just our American version of Mega Man. But I have heard from so many people that Mega Man and Mega Man 2 specifically are amazing platformers. That learning curve's a little bit steeper than Mario, but considering it's still such an iconic game, being what it is, and the fact that the difficulty is less of the game being cheap and more of you have to be pixel perfect with your jumps. I actually, this is a game I haven't played yet and I want to play it, so considering that it's number 3, this is actually really interesting. Again, it's interesting that 2 is number 3, not like Mega Man 1, the one that started it. But, you know, at the same time, you know, if they took, it's kind of like, probably just like Castlevania 3 here, where it perfected what the first one started. So, all right, fair enough. Number 2, I'm curious. Of course, The Legend of Zelda. They have, you know, literal gold. I mean, the cartridge was gold, you know. But yeah, this is actually one of the most iconic games for the NES, so it's fair enough that it's at number 2. You know, iconic sound, iconic music. You have an iconic character that's kind of stood the test of time. I mean, there's really not a bad Zelda game. Okay, we're ignoring the CDI ones. If we're going to ignore, you know, the CDI Marios too, in the same statement of there's not a bad Mario game. But there's really not a bad Zelda game. Like, it's all about like personal preference about which one you like more. Like, some people like the original Zeldas more than they liked the 3D ones, and there's people that like the 3D ones like Ocarina and Majora's Mask more than they liked 1 and Adventure of Link. And then there's people who like the more modern ones like Twilight Princess and Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild. I completely, or you know, I completely forgot about this for a second. But yeah, the character has stood the test of time. You know, it came in one of the most iconic packages of all time. Yeah, why was Legend of Zelda packaged with gorgeous gold cartridge? There's probably a boring answer, but it involves a successful marketing strategy. Yet Nintendo knew they had gold. I mean, and the thing about Zelda is to remember about Zelda during this time. In Japan, RPGs were everywhere. I mean, like every, I think 5th game over on the Famicom was an RPG. Over here in the States, we really didn't get into RPGs too much because we just couldn't wrap our simple beat 'em up, shoot 'em up brains around them. You know, I mean, yeah, you had Ultima, you had Bard's Tale and that kind of stuff, but those were you know, PC games. So on a console, you know, it was really hard to get into RPGs, and you know, Zelda stripped away a lot of the RPG elements that made it confusing and really streamlined it. This and Final Fantasy really helped brought RPGs into the U.S. market. So, you know, obviously, yeah, fair enough. Now, for a quick thing here, I'm curious what number 1's going to be. Like, I really am. Because if Zelda's 2 and Mario 1 was at 5, I'm curious by what number 1's going to be. Like, I really, really am. So, all right, let's see what it is. Mario 3. Mario 3 is a true marvel, arriving shortly before the release of the Super Nintendo. It replicated the success of the first game and expanded upon them, including introducing elements that are now seen essential to the franchise. Okay. That's actually interesting, and I do not fault them for this. This is actually a very, very good choice. And it's because, just like their logic with Mega Man 2 and Castlevania 3. If you take what's already near perfect, and then you keep polishing it, you get better. It is not surprising that they're kind of skipping over 2, because technically Mario 2 is not Mario 2. Our Mario 2 was actually a Nintendo ROM-hacked Doki Doki Panic, which was their own game anyway, and threw Mario characters in it because apparently the real Mario 2, which is now called The Lost Levels, was too difficult for us American audiences. Yeah, the fact that you know, this that the game at number 3 kind of went back to the core of what original Mario was, and there's a whole rumor and theory that it's a stage play about Mario. because you can kind of see like there's shadows and you see exposed screws, like there's some exposed screws right here, and you can kind of see kind of fake artificial shadows. The neat thing about it is that this game kind of, because it was so late into the NES's lifespan. In fact, this was 1990. This was right, like they said, right before the NES, the Super Nintendo came out. Nintendo then re-released 1, 2, 3, and the Lost Levels as remastered 16-bit versions for the Super Nintendo. And towards like 1990 was a really like weird year for Nintendo, because a lot of the games were pushing what the NES was capable of. I mean, it was really pushing the color space of what it could do. It was pushing what a lot of the scrolling could do, a lot of the graphics and sprites could do. And honestly, the fact that this game did it so perfectly without being bogged down or having weird glitches or causing weird control issues, and it was still perfectly playable, and it's still perfectly playable today. Okay, yeah, fair enough. Okay, so this is actually a very interesting list. I mean, there's parts of me that want to say, you know, you could swap out number 9, River City Ransom, for any of the games they mentioned before, like Double Dragon. But at the same time, it's nice that they're saying that an Underdog, one of the games that kind of got overshadowed by it, fills that space just perfectly fine. I have not played River City Ransom. I'm going to say this, I'm like a broken record at this point. I think it's on that bootleg cartridge, and most of the cards that I have. I might have to pop that in and play it. In fact, actually what I might do is at some point I might just write down all these and play them all and see what I think. But other than that, like, fair enough to where Metroid is. Mario being number 5, I think, was actually really surprising, and I'm really glad they didn't put that as number 1, because that would have made it too cliche if they would have went, you know, Mario 1, Zelda, and Mega Man 2. It would have been, or any of the Mega Mans. It would have been too obvious for them to put Mario 1. But I don't think that's why they didn't do it. I think it was literally like, you know, hey, 1's number 5 because it, you know, sparked the rebirth and the return of video games to the home console. It helped return trust in some ways after the video game crash of '83. And then, you know, okay, well, what's better than number 1? Number 3, because they took what they did in 1 and they polished it up and made it better. So yeah, fair enough. This was actually, yeah, you know what? I do fully agree with this list. I'm curious what you all think though. Is there any game that they might have, you know, I kind of wonder if there's not really a list of like honorable mentions. Is there honorable mentions? Sign up. The editor. Josh West is the UK managing editor of GamesRadar Plus. Over 10 years experience in online and print journal. Okay, so is there a, okay, no, there's no honorable list. Okay, so, I would be kind of interested to see what their idea was at the time when they did this, what the honorable mentions would be. But yeah, this list is absolutely, I'm going to admit, it's on point. I'm glad they put Duck Hunt in the list, because not just because it was a pack-in game and almost everybody played it, but because it's actually one of the more iconic NES games. And honestly, it's very difficult to play today. Like, you almost had to have a CRT. There was an adapter at some point I remember seeing that allowed you to play it on a flat screen. It was like some sort of signal. It like intercepted the signal coming from the NES and did something weird with it so that you could use a light gun on LCDs. But the fact that it's a very difficult game to play because you need the light gun in most cases. And it's one of the like 4 or 5 games that uses a zapper. So honestly, yes, I actually did enjoy this list. This was actually a very interesting list. I'm kind of curious if there's a top 10 like Super Nintendo list I could check out at some point. That's been very recently done. Maybe N64, PS1. I want to do more reactions like this. This was actually pretty fun and really surprising to me in some cases. But with that being said, really hope you all enjoyed this video. Thank you all for watching it. If you have any thoughts or comments about some of the games on this list, like if they could have been put in different places, or games they could have swapped out, or maybe you don't agree with, maybe this game should have been here and this game should have been there, put it in the comments. I'm kind of interested what you all think it would be, a good addition to the top 10 list, and maybe what could be the theoretical, like, honorable mentions, like what could have been 11 through 20. Kind of curious what you all think. So yeah, thank you all for watching this video. Hope you all enjoyed it, and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.